Okay, we're ready, Jason. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Here.
Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson. Yes. Gandy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Thank you. Next we have the consent agenda, approval of the minutes of the September, I forgot to ask, is there any changes to the agenda, first of all? If not,
I move we approve the agenda as written.
we don't have to do that. We don't do that as normal. Let's just go to the consent agenda. Okay? Approval of the minutes of the September 28th, 2020 council meeting. Approval of October 2nd, 2020 payroll in the amount of $121,133.80. Approval of the June 2020 finance report. Approval of the July 2020 finance report. Approval of the August 2020 finance report. Resolution of authorizing fund transfers. Approval of the USDA Step 1 debt in the amount of $12,975. Approval of park use permit Jeff Shipley. Approval of park use permit Foursquare Church. Approval of park use permit First Baptist Church. Approval of claims in the amount of $2,673,903.60. There are two claims more than $75,000. One to Maxwell Construction in the amount of $827,421.76 for step 2, and USDA for the wastewater treatment plant for $1,523,884.82. And I think Paul has a change.
Yeah. One amendment to the minutes of September 28th, where we're looking at committee and board reports. I appreciate the promotion, but I am not chairperson of the Jefferson County Ambulance Service.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You could state, I am an agency member.
I vote for it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I would too.
Agency member. And I had a question with regard to Foursquare Church noise exemption request. Do we know what time they're requesting the noise exemption? The time period? I know it's on Friday, 2 consecutive Fridays, but I saw the application. I don't think I saw anything about the time.
One of them said 8 a.m. I don't know which one though.
Yeah, I don't see a time on here.
There's no time on
On the first
listed.
quarter, there's no time. And on the
Have they done this before?
Mm-hmm.
first.
That's what I was
Baptist,
tking.
It's just like their second or third time doing it.
Yeah. And did they do it on, what time was that before?
I don't know, that was the weekend my grandpa passed away.
October 23rd, is that a Friday?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be between 5 p.m. and 9 or 10 at the latest.
I wouldn't think they'd go much later than 10.
Yeah.
What time does our noise exemption request gotta be put in for after anyway?
There's not time.
There's not? I'm checking this out.
So shall we suggest approval up to,
I can
10.
text this right really quick and find out.
I was just gonna look at the old one too.
I'm sorry?
I do believe the city parks close at 10.
What-
Okay.
Are we talking about the Foursquare?
Yeah.
The 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.?
Are you looking at the last one?
Is there 2 for Foursquare?
No, one's for the Baptist church.
I'm looking at Foursquare and it says 6:30 to 8. There are 6.
Baptist Church is probably doing, is that on October?
I don't see that. Where do you see that?
9:14, there was one.
What's that?
Oh,
Am I looking at the wrong one?
8:24 Fairfield minutes.
Well, that's different than what I have. I don't have a time on this one.
23rd to 6.
Are those the dates?
What dates?
No, those are the old ones. October 23rd, yeah. So what times are those again? These are the old ones.
It says 6 to 8:30 on this one.
Okay. So we assume, I guess we're gonna assume it's probably the same time. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve with the change in minutes.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Flournoy.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion?
With regard to Foursquare, could we suggest that they have the same range of time as they had previous request?
Yeah,
Would
I
that be
think that's reasonable.
6 PM to 8:30 is what they asked for before.
Yeah, 6 to 8:30. Rebecca, you want to just check with them and then, I guess, let us know if it's something different, but we'll assume it's the same. Okay, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes, I
Pam?
need to abstain from the minutes of September 28th, please.
Okay. Pam.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Ally.
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda approved unanimously except for the abstention. Let's go, there's no public appearances, so let's go down to resolution, action items, and ordinances. We have an action item, consideration of letter of support for MIU branching out. Michael?
So this is a grant that, with the Trees Forever, that MIU will be applying for. It's due the end of the month for a spring planting. And I'm working on this project with Tom Brooks, who's Vice President of Operations, I think, avid tree planter. He organized planting about 550 trees in the last 5 years on campus. And this project is to replace about 50 that didn't make it. That's a pretty good success rate, a survival rate, especially considering at least 5 or 6 of these were killed by someone coming off Highway 1 and running over a bunch of them when they lost control of their vehicle. So we want to replant those. I'm working on the project just as more or less a citizen and getting my son, who's a senior in high school, involved, kind of show him the ropes of how to manage one of these projects. Tom requested a letter of support from the city, just so Trees Forever knows that we're not trying to do our own project around the same time, which is basically what this letter says. And I put it in my name just because the Trees Forever people know me. I'm kind of a friend of theirs, so they'll recognize the name and maybe give a little extra boost. But I was actually asked by them this spring to submit, because they haven't heard from us in a while. We haven't done a Trees Forever grant probably in 2 years. So it'll be good to get another Trees Forever grant and then put these 50 trees on campus and add them to our tree inventory.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Kate. Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ally.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Thank you. Approved unanimously to approve that letter of support for MIU branching out. The next action item is consideration of proposed light purchase for the pickleball court, and I think Calvin's here to talk about that project.
Thanks for having me. I'm also here with Mr. Pickleball himself back here, and I'll let him talk here in a little bit. But basically what it is, so out at Heritage Park there, we had that old skate park that used to sit there, and it's just kind of a slab of concrete. Pickleball has started to really grow in this community, and just like it has nationwide. So about 3 years ago, myself and another Park and Rec employee went out there, and we just put some lines down, just tape measure and just, spray paint and put some lines down. Well, we've got more and more people out there who are starting to play, and with everything going on nowadays, with everybody's recommending you stay outside, recreate outside as much as possible, the local Fairfield Pickleball organization took advantage of the courts out there, and then they turned it into a million times better than I could have ever dreamed of turning it into, just to be honest. It looked terrible when I did it. Right now it's resurfaced and actually looks like official pickleball courts. Now we're getting to that time of year where days are getting shorter, and shorter, and we still have nice weather, and we're still wanting people to get out to our parks and recreate. And So Mr. Terry over here and the rest of the pickleball organization had come up with a proposal to put some lights in there. There would be 2 lights, one on the east side, one on the west side, kind of overhanging, and it's a direct kind of, right down on the courts. Went around, the pickleball organization went around and talked with the neighbors, and we've actually got some stuff in email that says that they support the project. We will have lights off there at 8:15 is when the lights will be turned off, and they won't be able to be turned back on unless it's done, correct me if it's done manually, right? Is that how we had it set?
Well, what it is you have, go ahead.
Okay, I'll have him come up and talk here in a little bit. But anyway, they've been to Park and Recreation Advisory Board a couple of different times. I didn't have enough for a quorum in September, just because of the holiday, and it was on a different day than it normally is. But, so they talked with 2 members there, both very supportive of the project. In October, we didn't have a quorum either, but we did have 2 different Park and Rec board members there, and as what was from September, and they talked with them, both support the project as well too. I support it fully as well too. I think it's, it would just be a great addition to our park system. I think the main reason for bringing it here is the fact that obviously there is going to be a little bit of a cost coming out of the Park and Rec budget annually, just keeping up with electricity and stuff like that. Which I wouldn't necessarily say keeping up, but it's,
Do you have an idea of how much that cost would be?
I don't,
$75 a year.
How much?
$75 a year.
Yeah, I'm sure these are LED bulbs, very high efficient. Yeah, it's not much.
I'll introduce Terry. Why don't you come on up here?
Hi, thank you very much.
Yep.
Calvin has been fantastic to work with. He's been supportive with us all the way and been very helpful with trying to get us to understand how to make this thing work. We've had extensive conversations with the neighbors, and I have emails from everyone around the neighborhood, and Mark Smith, who owns the bike shop, also turned out to be sort of the neighborhood representative, and he's given written endorsement to this project as well. So it's about a $10,000 improvement on top of the $20,000 that was put in to paint the courts in a professional grade. On a personal note, I think it's been really wonderful to see the neighborhood come alive. I mean, 9th Street for many years was kind of a dead street and actually kind of a great place to do drug deals. And I think that with this much activity going on, it's been, we've seen more children come out week after week and come and play, and it's created a lot more lively atmosphere for the entire park. Also, we've been working with Calvin. We are also going to donate a piece of playground equipment as well as part of this project, so it's not just for the pickleball people. And then, not speaking for Mark, but Mark also said that he would donate. So we've shown them the equipment, so we're putting those in too whenever it's convenient for Park and Rec to, rearrange that. So yes, it'll be lights off at working with the neighbors. It'll be an electronic switch on it, and it'll be hard light off at 8:15. So you will have toggle switches on each of the 2 poles. So let's just say one group comes to play, they can turn the toggle switch on, and whether the toggle switch is on at 8:15, the electricity will still cut off and be resumed later. So the lights won't be on all the time at all, only when people are there. And we had the guy from Alliant out there, and he calculated all the costs and everything, and said it'd be about $75 a year.
So, Mr. Pickleball, it sounds like a great idea.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the letter from the neighbor, and he indicated in the letter that there's an agreement of the neighbors that if the 2 proposed lights have a hard cutoff time of 8:15,
Yeah.
all the neighbors I have surveyed have agreed to support the outdoor lights.
Correct.
So do they understand what a hard cut is? Is it a hard cutoff meaning you can't turn the lights back on, or you can?
That's correct.
You cannot.
There'll be an electronic switch. So you've got, the electricity has a meter, and then right after the meter, there'll be an electronic switch that can be programmed, which is under lock. And so it'll automatically cut off at 8:15, and maybe it goes on again at 5 o'clock or something. Electricity will just be available from 5 p.m., let's say, to 8:15. So if no one's on the court, they don't turn the second switch on the pole, which is to illuminate 2 of the courts. So you can go and play with that switch all day long, but if electricity is off at 8:30, you aren't going to get any juice.
So at 8:15, does that mean
8:15.
you cannot turn the lights back on?
That's correct.
We have the same kind of thing with the tennis court lights over behind the middle school and at O.B. Nelson Park. I can
Calvin, you want to go to the
Oh, sorry, yeah.
microphone? Thank you, please.
We have the same thing at the tennis courts behind the middle school. We actually control the lighting. Park and Recreation controls the lighting there, and then also the lighting at O.B. Nelson Park. I can go online and adjust it, the time frame on when I want them to turn off, when I want them to be able to be accessible. So like, for example, right now, we've got lights on at the tennis courts at 5:30, off at 10 o'clock. They can't be turned back on. So, and then they won't be accessible until the following day at 5:30 again, which is what will be very similar to the pickleball lights out at Heritage Park.
Yeah, just to be sure, so the neighbors they're good with what this plan you have, okay?
Yeah.
That's fine, thanks.
I want to recognize also Lisco and all the people, pickleball players who have put their time and attention and money behind this project. It's been really amazing. I think it's great for the neighborhood, as Terry said. I think it's really wonderful. They're going to also extend some cement there at where the little basketball court is, so there's additional room for kids to bicycle on that hard surface and play. So it's a great addition to the community, and I'd like to personally thank Lisco for the amount of money they put into it, and all the other pickleball players that have participated and raised money for the lights and everything they're doing. It's a great thing.
And the other thing I will say too is this coming spring, we've talked with Daryl Bisgard and the Streets Department. They are going to concrete on the north side of it, and we will have picnic tables and shade structures there as well too. So it's going to be a really nice facility.
And Park and Rec has created some off-street parking too, which has helped the neighborhood as well. So there's not that congestion there. All righty. So is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Gandy. Any further discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Approved unanimously. By the way, when are those going to be installed? Did you say that? And I missed it?
The lights are sitting on my front porch right now.
Okay.
So as soon as we get the contractors lined up for, digging the holes, we should be ready to go very, very soon.
Will that keep the weather good for a while?
We're hoping that it will be. And I do want to appreciate
Good.
all the attention you've given us, and we're very happy to sort of be a part of making the park, more fun for everybody. So
Great.
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next resolution, a consideration to request reimbursement from the Iowa COVID-19 Government Relief Fund. Aaron gets to tell us again about this.
Yes, this is the third time doing this. The reason we're doing it the third time is they changed the reimbursement rates for public safety salaries. So instead of giving us up to 25% of our salaries, that will give us up to 50% of the salaries through the time frame that we can request reimbursement. And that would actually put us at the maximum amount of money that the state has allocated to us. So working with the lady that's doing the review of our application, she requested that we change the resolution again, but this time leaving it open-ended so that we can get the maximum amount of grant available to us.
Do we have a new resolution number?
That gets, Rebecca issues it afterwards.
Okay.
That's why it's a blank.
Yeah.
What's your
okay.
target date for submitting the application?
It's already been submitted.
We know what the dollar amount is.
I forget what the grant, they allocated, I want to say it's around $224,000 to the city of Fairfield.
So move approval.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Thank you. Approved unanimously. Next resolution, consideration, proposal, disposal, and after vacation of real estate interests by city easement and setting public hearing. This is for the Byrnes property. John, do you want to say anything
Just
tonight?
the next two items are identical, except one is for the Simmons property and one is for the Byrnes property. And you've been through this process on the Huffman Estates, 3 council meetings in a row to get to where you need to be under the code. So this is the start. You set it for a hearing the next time, and assuming you agree, your next resolution at that hearing would be you hereby vacate this unneeded property, and then you'll set it for another hearing so you can transfer it for the exchange for what they've already given us of equivalent value. So if I could urge you just to do both of these one at a time
Okay.
to get them set for the 26th.
I move we set the public hearing for the Byrnes property for October 26th at
Second.
7 PM.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Anderson. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Great. Approved unanimously. Okay, the Simons property.
Move the same for the Simons property.
Okay, moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Ham. Oh, sorry, Flournoy,
Here.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Approved unanimously. Okay, next resolution, consideration of resolution determining the necessity and setting dates of a consultation and public hearing on a proposed North Campus Village Phase 6 urban renewal plan for a proposed urban renewal area in the city of Fairfield. So we'll have a consultation on Tuesday, October 20th at 11, and a public hearing for Monday, November 9th at 7 PM. Aaron, you want to add to that?
Correct, yeah. This is the new area that North Campus Village has put in. It's actually the market rate area of that development, which is essentially finished. So in order to get the increment and ensure that Martin is able to get reimbursed for his public infrastructure that he's put in, we need to get this put in place here by the end of, well, it'd be nice if we got it done by November, end of November, to get that in place so that we can begin setting the base and increment for him to reimburse him for the public infrastructure that he's put in for that development. He's been a very good partner for the city and for North Campus Village for those developments, and it's been really good to work with him as far as any type of issues as far as the city's concerned. So the consultation meeting will be for the taxing entities, so that there'll be an invitation to the supervisors and to the school board. And then, of course, the public hearing will, what's that?
In the hospital?
I think so, but I don't know if they're affected by it or not. But then, of course, the public hearing starts the process as far as the ordinance is concerned for the urban renewal area and the development agreement.
Do you need a resolution including both the consultation and the public hearing dates?
Just one, according to Allers. Allers wrote that, so they're comfortable with it.
I would suggest, it appears to be in the resolution itself, I would suggest we want to replace the language in section E, where it refers to the comprehensive plan 1995 to 2015. We probably want to replace that with
See
the
the current one.
Fairfield Forever Plan,
Yeah,
adopted in 2020.
actually, I did mention that to them, and they must not have overlooked it.
Thank you, Paul.
So I move we set the public hearing for, what does it say here?
November 9th.
North Campus Village Phase 6 Urban Renewal Plan for November 9 to 2020 as amended by Councilman Gandy.
Okay. So moved by Flournoy?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hallie,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Great, thank you. Approved unanimously. Okay. October is Manufacturers Month, so I have a proclamation to be read. This will also be read at a chamber meeting that's coming up, or a manufacturers meeting, I guess. But I wanted to get it early in the month too, so the whole community knows. To appreciate all our manufacturers in town that provide employment to their employees. Whereas the manufacturers of industrial goods and services in the city of Fairfield have played a major role in creating a solid foundation of commerce in the city of Fairfield for over 100 years. And whereas the men and women employed within the manufacturing workforce constitute a substantial impact on the economy and growth of this community and the state of Iowa, representing 87% of Iowa exports. And whereas manufacturing firms supply more than 223,000 jobs to Iowans, representing more than 14% of the state's total employment. And whereas the products and services from these firms are exported throughout the international marketplace, and these operations continue to establish an even broader base of products distribution. And whereas the citizens of Fairfield, Iowa are proud of the work ethic within this community and wish to so recognize it. And whereas the retention and growth of our manufacturing sector is a major part of our overall community economic strategy. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Connie Boyer, Mayor of the City of Fairfield, Iowa, proclaim that the month of October as Fairfield Manufacturers Month and salute the members of the Fairfield Manufacturers Association for their dedication to our community, to provide the jobs necessary to sustain our economy, and for their contributions to the quality of life of our city. Thank you to all our manufacturers. We appreciate everything that you do in the community. The next, I do have a city appointment, and this is to appoint Therese Comiskey to the Kearney Historical Museum Board. She is replacing Chris Small, who has resigned. And so I would take a motion to approve that.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Ham. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. City Attorney Report. John, do you have anything tonight?
I'm looking forward to the presentation on the Nady area, but I'm going to recommend, because of some things that I know about that and some attorneys up in Story County that we worked with over 10 years ago, that we're probably going to need to have Ron and his friends meet with us in committee and go over some of that stuff. There may be some tax consequences. There may be some questions about the status of the other organizations that are like 501c3, as well as the city's exemption that we need to include in what they're planning. And anyway, so I'm looking forward to hearing what they present, and then that'll be my suggestion. Also, I talked with the city administrator earlier today and with the county attorney about a time for a potential meeting jointly between the council and the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to review some things that have been on the table before but need to be looked at, as far as the joint operating agreement for the law center, and particularly some issues about communications division out there and how we handle emergency dispatch and so forth. But that's for November. We just have to figure out what's going to work with them. And understand Aaron will report to you too on this, and probably go see the Board of Supervisors about best timing. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Okay, committee and board reports. So we have Ron Blair here tonight to talk about the Nady land.
Yeah, Kevin Anderson.
Okay, and Kevin. Great.
Yeah, Kevin is on our committee, and Kevin is employed by the Iowa DNR Wildlife Bureau as a private lands wildlife biologist. He lives in Fairfield, but covers 24 counties in southeast Iowa, and has been doing work in this area for over 20 years. Everybody had a chance to read that huge amount of paperwork I threw at you. So it really covered Nady past, Nady present, and Nady future, and open the floor to all of you to ask any questions. Hi, Katie, I haven't seen you in a while. Any questions you might have on any of those areas, past, present, future, anything about any of the details that we've included as attachments.
Can you tell us, Ron, who is currently on the board?
On our board is myself, Kevin, Sean Morrissey, County Conservation Board, Cardi Beatty, who is administrator for the Sustainable Living Center on MIU campus, Brittany Tiller, who's the naturalist at County Conservation Board, Lee Shepman, who is president of the Silver Lakes Homeowners Association. They are immediately adjacent to Nady land, and Mark Smith, who is the owner of the ride, as you know, and also a certified burn specialist, and has done burns on the Nady land, very experienced with prairie as well. So we have a couple of great experts. Kevin, first and foremost, Sean Morrissey, who's worked with prairie for years and years, Mark Smith, and then we also, ex officio, we have Doug Ensminger from NRCS, and they're the ones that really got us going, helped us put the land into CRP, generate funds so that the land could be improved. So those are all the people. And Calvin and Pam Craffer, ex officio, always invited to every meeting.
Who prepared the report?
Which report?
The report, the documents that you submitted to the council, who prepared
That was
these?
me.
You did?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they are, well, I don't want to get ahead of the game, but you are suggesting that we put someone from the Park and Rec Board on.
To join our board. Have somebody directly from Park and Rec join our board, or alternative would be that we would report to them twice a year and give them a report, whichever they prefer.
How long do you think how long would the CRP last?
We have 4 years left on that contract.
Is it renewable?
You never know. I asked Kevin about that. He said, all depends on what happens with the farm bill.
Yeah.
Just
But it's been in place for many years. Not here, but in the state.
everywhere.
Over 30 years. CRP has been a
Like
program
the-
through USDA for over 30 years. Yeah.
Ron, can you talk about, since it's been a while, about the seating and just the challenges and where you think it's at now?
Okay, well, I'm going to reference what I put in that report, which is we've had 3 seating. The first seating was in 2017, and it was an extension at that time of how many days you could have to plant. As soon as we planted, boy, the rain stopped, and so that was we had only partial success in terms of some of the plants germinated, and they're great. We did a second planting and ran into similar problems. It's not that easy to restore Iowa prairie. It takes skill, and we're extremely lucky to have Kevin join us, who actually took us through some hugely important steps in terms of exactly how high or low to mow the existing vegetation, when to burn, when not to burn. And also, Kevin got us a 100% DNR grant, which allowed us this last winter to do what's called a frost seeding.
Yes.
Frost seeding. So when we went out this spring and we looked, the prairie is established, and it's established enough that we plan to open it to the public in spring of 21.
Will there be like a grand opening kind of thing? Are you planning?
I sure hope so. I would love to see Mrs. Nady, who's in her early 90s, and the Nady family come down. It'll obviously have to do with the situation in terms of the overall health, but we do plan on having like a tent and chairs and the whole thing.
And is there a trail around the perimeter or within it? How does that trail work?
You want to? I feel like I'm hogging all the answers here.
You're doing great. Basically, there's a part of the trail, I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but it was not put into CRP because you can't have trails running through CRP because of the rules of USDA. And plus, there's a nesting season that runs from May 15th through August 1st. So Ron and I believe Doug, on the map it shows where those trails are. And we decided that we were just going to do a mowed trail instead of rock. It just is a lot easier, it's a lot cheaper. I think it's going to be a good thing because it's going to get people out in the prairie. If you're going to experience prairie, you need to be in it. You can look at it, but to walk it and to experience it on a hot day, on a cold day, it doesn't matter. You just need to be in the prairie. So,
if you saw that one attachment that showed the type of seed that was planted, I think it's over 100 grasses and forbs, and what's great about it, and Kevin's pointed this out, and Kevin's on the signage committee along with Brittany, the naturalist, and Kari, the educator, is that through the whole season you're going to have new flowers blooming, grasses blossoming. It's really going to be a showcase, and it's going to be a tremendous educational asset for the area. I really see school teachers bringing classes, school buses parking, and children seeing this really extraordinary area. I was joking with Kevin once. I was at one of our meetings, and I said, you know, preach, brother, but really really wax eloquent about sort of, you know, the native Iowa prairie
just a bit about that mix. This mix is called the Aldo Leopold mix, after Aldo Leopold, who was a famous conservationist born in Burlington, Iowa. It's got over 100 species of native grasses and flowers, which, like Ron said, will start blooming in April and bloom all the way till now in October, which is the cool thing about a prairie. You'll be able to see that. The reality of it is there's less than 1/10% of the original prairie left in Iowa. If you think about the millions of acres that used to be in prairie, and now we're farming them, and there's cities built up around them. So this is a jewel for the city of Fairfield to have in place, and for people to go out and look at and experience what Iowa may have looked at one time, or looked like at one time. So, yeah.
We have 40 acres of native prairie on our farm that has never been touched by a plow.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, you know, I appreciate what you all are doing. I think it is so wonderful to see, you know, something, and the restoration, you know, and getting it restored is not something that people don't understand. I mean, it's not like planting a garden.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not an annual crop, it's a perennial crop, and it takes time. And I told Ron from the beginning, you have to follow the 3 Ps, which is patience in year 1, patience in year 2, and patience in year 3. And we're getting there.
Yeah.
That
We're getting
is
there.
wonderful.
Yeah. There are 3 ponds that were placed on the property. That was part of the master plan that was created by Steve Brower, who's a fairly notable landscape architect in the state. He designed the Mount Pleasant High School prairie planting, and he's very active with the Aldo Leopold group. So there are 3 beautiful ponds. There are those walking paths that Connie asked about, and the placement of those paths were done so that to be like on the ridge line, so that you look on either side to minimize erosion. I mean, the NRDC people and Kevin really think through all those steps, and we feel like we have experts that really give us great guidance.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say this committee has been a joy to work with. They've taken hold of it and hey, can you come out and do plant identification? We've done that with the committee multiple times, and tell us the health, what's going on with it. It's been a joy to work with them, so.
Great. We look forward to the spring. And I'd just like to say that years ago, Laura McCormick took me out to what's native prairie around the park, Waterworks Park. And she said, now don't tell anybody this plant is here. And we would sneak up on a plant that was so amazingly brilliant in its color and shape and form. It just blew my mind, you know. So I think it's going to be really cool once we can see those things up close and personal.
Real quick, not to be the doomsday guy. One of the reasons we formalized this committee was because there were some concerns about how these public funds were being allocated. And we still need to hash some of that out, because in your future planning, you talk about leveraging these funds for Nady land on other properties. We're not sure that the agreement will allow that. So I'm going to make the motion as per our city attorney's advice to send this to property committee to delve into a little bit further so that we can make sure we're completely on the right side of the law in terms of how this is being handled. You know, you from the DNR, you know, it's the right way to do things, and we just want to make sure that that's being followed. So I'll make the motion to have the property committee review the bylaws and use our city attorney's advice on how to organize the committee.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Hallie, second by Gandy to move the bylaws in this next step to the property committee. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hallie,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Studo,
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Connie, could we just add one additional thing?
Sure.
Which is, since Councilman Halley brought up the future, which was the Nady future, this is really an extraordinary group of people. I can't say enough about Sean Morrissey in terms of, with the Conservation Board, how he looks at all the native prairie, how best to handle it, how to save it, how to get rid of invasives with the minimum amount of herbicide. We hired Kayla Ross to do some hand cutting so that we had to minimize the amount of herbicides we used. So what we would like to do is to leverage the kind of the excellence of our group and to put our attention on those adjacent areas to the loop trail that we mentioned in this. That would be the waterworks area where there's native prairie. It's been sort of taken over by black locust. And the Eastman wetlands, which was established by the DOT, NEP wetlands. Lamson Woods is another area that is sort of calling out for help. So we have, I think, expertise to leverage those existing funds and the funds that would come in over the next 4 years and actually really improve and help some other areas, recreational, environmental areas of the city that just don't have any attention put on them just because there's simply not enough people and money to go around. So that's our goal. That was what we would like to do as a group, and so that's our intention.
Great, thank you. So we can talk out those details in the property committee, and then it'll come back to the full council.
Great, super.
Great, thanks, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin, for coming. Appreciate it. And thanks for all your work over these last several years. And we look forward to the spring.
Great, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the administrator and department reports. Snow emergency policy.
Mel, do you want to talk about that, or?
Last March, the downtown parking ordinance was passed, and that included no parking on the last Thursday of the months of April through October. So that means that October 29th is the last Thursday of 2020 that the cars need to be moved in the downtown area. But what that means is that we are getting closer to snow season and having to declare our first snow emergency. So what you have in front of you is the policy that we intend to follow regarding declaring a snow emergency. What's going to happen in the typical storm, if there is such a thing in Iowa? Say we get the snow overnight, then when Daryl and myself and Aaron get into the office first thing in the morning, we'll talk about the amount of snow that we had or the amount of snow predicted. And as close to 8 a.m. as possible, we will get out the announcement of a snow emergency. That gives the residents and the people in the area 12 hours to prepare, make a plan for that evening. The cars actually do not need to be off of the square until 8 p.m. So we're going to get the information out as soon as possible, but the no parking applies overnight. More than likely, the street's going to be, the snow is going to be hauled away that first night, but if the snow is larger, the snow, or the snow policy, well, and then the ordinance that you had passed allows for up to 48 hours. We'll try our best to keep the information out there and notify people as best as possible. This policy also talks about where we will be getting the information out. Like I said, we'll do our best. So it's kind of an FYI for everyone that we're getting close to having to declare that snow emergency. There's no changes to what was talked about in March, just a reminder.
Okay, great. So we don't need to pass this officially, right?
No.
Yeah.
We already
Okay.
did that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and then the next item on there is the biannual EPA report. So every April and October, we owe the EPA an update as far as where we are on removing the sanitary sewer overflows within the city. What I've attached to your agenda is a draft for your information. There are a few things that we still need to coordinate with McClure, but we shouldn't have a problem getting this submitted to EPA by Thursday, which is the due date. Just a few things that I want to point out in this report. On page 4 is a summary of the sanitary sewer overflows that have happened in the last 6 months. You'll see that there is only one sanitary sewer overflow into Crow Creek, meaning that we've only had one SSO on the east side of the system. Typically, in 2019, prior to hooking up step 1 and the wastewater treatment plant, we had 17 sanitary sewer overflows on the east side of the system. So what this is really showing you is that the hard work that the city has done and the citizens to get those projects done is paying off as far as the removal of the sanitary sewer overflows. What this also shows you is, the second thing that I want to point out is that we still have a lot of work to do on the west side of the system. Alex from McClure was here maybe a couple months ago and alluded to that there is going to be a need for improvements to the west side of the system. And on page 6, you'll see what we are proposing as our next step. That we will have a step 3A, which will be improvements to Grease Lightning Lift Station. That's the largest lift station within the system. It's the major lift station. It's what takes everything from the west side over to the wastewater treatment plant. So we're going to be looking at major upgrades to that. We knew there were going to be improvements, but now with this flow study being completed, we know more what the capacity is going to need to be. Then there will also be force main improvements as well as a little bit of gravity sewer that is needed. At that point, it will get us to another kind of go, no-go point where we'll look at the numbers again and see if a step 4 is needed. So this is outlined in real general terms as required for EPA. They are asking us to give them an update as far as where we are and how we plan to proceed on the step 3A and step 3B. So I will get this turned into them on Thursday, and then possibly as soon as the first of the year, we'll be looking at selection for engineers to do that work. The selection process will be required by pretty much any funding source we use. So no more do we close out the wastewater treatment plant. We get to start on step 3, so.
Great.
Melanie,
Yes.
or is the goal here to have 0 SSOs, or are we allowed any at all? Or
Um,
EPA?
The DNR regulations are no sanitary sewer overflows for storms, for a 10-hour storm, or, sorry, 10-year storm or less, which a 10-year storm is 2.1 inches in an hour. So we are allowed some. The one overflow that's still on the east side of the system that showed up in the last 6 months is actually near Forest Park, so it should be alleviated with, once step 2 is completed. There's also, in the past, there's been an overflow right at MUM, and we haven't seen one there in 2020, but in the past, so again, step 2 will take care of those. And so there's nothing with this report I need you to approve. It's just an FYI that we're getting the biannual reports turned into EPA like we're required by the consent order.
Any other questions, council? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, yep, Aaron?
I have a couple of things. Just
Oh,
to-
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just for information, here in the near future, the city is going to do a citywide harassment and diversity training. It's going to be done through Iowa Workman's Comp, so the IMWCA, Iowa Workman's Comp Association. It's going to be online training this year, and we'll probably bring somebody from IMWCA to Fairfield next year to do a similar training, just so that we have a continuity of training. Been working with Josh. I know the mayor brought up tax abatement regarding housing. Josh from FEDA and I have been working together with some housing ideas, and we'll continue to do that so that we can bring something to economic development there. John mentioned having a joint meeting with the supervisors. The majority of that is focused on the dispatch funding. We are obligated by the 28E to notify them around November to say, hey, we would like this changed. So we need to make that notification, and that's what we're doing and why we need to do that. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Doesn't the service agency handle that 2080 agreement?
Yes and no. It's actually more of a 2080 agreement between us and the county, not necessarily the service agency per se.
Service agency is 2 representatives of the council, 2 supervisors, and a 5th is a citizen.
Right, but the citizen doesn't have to be there for that argument, correct, John?
Okay.
And I should say disagreement. The last thing is the next meeting, after we had my annual review, the council wanted financial reports. The next meeting, I'm hoping to have our first quarterly report for our financial report from Rebecca and I will work on that so we can give that at the next council meeting. That's all I've got.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions for Aaron? Okay, now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill,
Second.
second by Ham. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
Talkative.